Okay, we're back. It's Ken at Capital Advantage Tutoring. It's my job to get you past the SIE exam. And here it's part two, should be part two of the complete SIE. We're going to talk about offerings. Offerings, how they bring in the money, how the primary purpose of Wall Street is to raise money for companies so they can do shit, right? That's what we're doing here. That's what the offering. So let's start with who's in it. First, let's talk with the participants, like the underwriting syndicate. Okay. So the investment bankers, these are the folks that help companies or municipalities raise money by issuing new securities. They'll price the offering, market it, and handle all the paperwork to get it off the ground. That's the investment banker. Underwriting syndicate. If the offering's big, one investment bank might be a little bit too much for them. So they'll all chip in, buy the securities from an issuer, and then spread them out to investors. A big old team effort. Now, inside that, there is, I'll see if I get to it later. Now, we have municipal advisors. These are the firms that advise states, cities, and other local towns and stuff how to issue the bonds. They're like the city's wingmen. They kind of help make sure the deal gets structured and timed properly. So we have two types of offering, public versus private. Public, these offerings are sold to anyone and everyone, your mom, your cousin, everyone on the subway. They're registered with the SEC, and there's a prospectus that lays out all the nitty-gritty details. Private, these are offered to a group of accredited or sophisticated investors. No big flashy ad campaign, a lot less disclosures, and you generally need to meet certain income requirements to do this. So normally to buy a private placement, you have to be accredited, which I always remember 1, 2, 3 accredited. Your net worth is 1 million, excluding your house and cars, or you're single and you make 200 grand a year and expected to keep doing that, or you're miserable, I mean married, and you make 300 grand a year and expected to keep doing it. Also, if you have the 7 or the 65 or the 82, you're considered accredited. And you need to be sophisticated, or they're going to need what they call a purchaser's rep to sit in with you to explain the nitty gritty details. Now, let's talk about different types IPOs versus secondaries and follow ons. Okay. IPO is the first time a company goes public, like the big moment when they ring the bell on the stock exchange and everyone's clapping, all the new millionaires. That's the first time they raise money. An IPO is the first time they raise money by selling shares to the public. A secondary, it's when existing shares are sold by insiders or major shareholders. So like a Bill Gates or Bezos or Elon Musk, when they sell some of their shares in an offering, they're sold after the IPO. It doesn't create new shares. It just changes the ownership. Okay. So again, an IPO primary is a first time issuance. They're issuing new shares. That's how they go public, whatever it is. And then a secondary offering is when existing shareholders like partners, officers, directors sell their shares into the public to raise some money for themselves, not the company. A follow on or an additional, this is when the company already has shares on the market, but they say, hey, you know what? Let's issue some more to raise capital. These are brand new shares. These do dilute existing ownerships a little bit. So if we do an additional offering, we are basically diluting the shares of the new people. So a lot of times they'll do it with a rights offering, which we'll get to it later, where they let all the existing shareholders buy more shares at a discount from where we're offering it to the public. Also, we have best efforts versus firm commitment. Best efforts is the underwriter goes, look, we'll do the best we can to sell the shares, but we're not promising we'll buy what's ever left. We will just, if we don't sell anything, the issuer could be stuck with unsold options. Okay, options, a portion. So again, the underwriter says we'll do the best we can. Whatever we don't sell, we'll give back to you. Now, there are limits to that. Well, there's limits and stuff. But let's just go right now. Best efforts means we're going to sell the best. The underwriter is going to sell the best they can, do the best they can to sell them. And whatever left over, the issuer will have to take. Also, remember, if you think I'm speaking too fast, knock it down to 75%, and that should help. I may sound a little drunk, but it is help. Okay. Then we have firm commitment. The underwriter, God, I'm speak horribly. The underwriter buys the entire issue. So listen, if I'm going to go public and I do a firm commitment, the underwriter will buy all the shares of the bonds from me and then try to sell them for a profit with a little markup. But the problem is if they can't sell them, they eat the loss, not me. So best efforts, the risk is on the issuer. Firm commitment, the risk is on the underwriting group. Okay. That's why underwriters will do a lot of homework before they do a firm commitment because they want to make sure they can sell it. Now, we can also talk about a shelf registration. It lets an issuer register a bunch of securities with the SEC, but then puts them on the shelf and issue them down the road when the market conditions are right. It's like buying groceries in bulk and then cooking dinner when you need it. Okay, so let's do it that way. I do a shelf offering. It's called an S3. Usually well-known seasoned issuers can do this. It's never an IPO. It's we're issuing shares, and we're already out there. We already have shares outstanding or a lot of bonds outstanding, and we get approval to register them, and then we issue them at a later date, up to 3 years later. We can issue them a little bit at a time, or one big bulk thing in a year, or 2 years, or 3 years. But it's called a shelf offering because we're getting the permission from the SEC to issue them, and then we put them on a shelf and we sell them when the market's going well. Now, so the whole point is we can tap the market multiple times without having to do a full registration. It's good for, again, it's for well-known seasoned issuers. So maybe what I'll do is I'll get authorized to issue 20 million shares. Maybe I don't need to sell all 20 million. So maybe I'll sell 5 million when I need it, another 2, another 8, or up to the 20 million over the next 3 years. I can issue them as needed when I need the moolah. And if you like what you see so far, please hit a like, subscribe, hit the notification button. So when my other shit shows up, see the like button? Hit that, hit the notification bell. So when I put up more shit, you can see it. Let's go, baby. Let's keep going. Now let's talk about the offering docs, okay? First, we have the official statement, okay? This is for muni bonds. This is the big disclosure doc telling investors about the project, the finances, and any risks. The prospectus is for corporate offerings, also known as non-exempt. Corporate offerings, mutual funds, stuff like that. You're supposed to read this. This is the user's manual for the investment. What you're buying, risks, fees, management, all that stuff. All the risks, everything, what you can expect. Delivery requirements. So they want to make sure the investors get these documents. So we're going to have rules on when you have to do it. So let's talk about them. First of all, it has to come untouched. So you can't fuck around with it. You can't highlight it. You can't omit it. You can't circle anything or go, hey, read this. It has to come pretty much pristine. Okay. You have to get this. Now, by the way, you can email it to them or give them a link to a website because there's a thing called access equals delivery. So giving them access to the prospectus is the same as delivering it. So you have to send it to them no later than completion of the trade, which is usually settlement, and how long are they subject to it. So if it's an over-the-counter IPO, I mean, it's an over-the-counter, not on exchange IPO, they are subject to this delivery rule for 90 days. You don't get it in 90 days, but they're subject to the rule for the first 90 days after the IPO. If it's a follow-on over-the-counter, which means not on an exchange, it's only 40 days they're subject to it, like biblical, like Noah, Moses, shit like that. Then if it's an IPO that's on the stock exchange, it's big. It's been registered. The SEC and the exchanges are demanding a bunch of disclosures. It's only 25 days. So an IPO, so it goes 90, 40, 25. IPO over the counter 90. Additional offering over the counter, follow on if you want to call it, 40 days. And if it's an IPO stock exchange, it's 25. Sounds like I forgot something. If it's a follow-on, but it's on the exchange already, there's no prospectus because they've already been disclosing quarterly reports, and every broker in the world is like ripping it apart. SEC filing. So a public offering, you would do an S1 for an IPO, S3 for a shelf, SAM1 and SAM3 for a shelf offering. The SEC reviews it. On the S1, it's usually going to be a 20-day review, unless they're an accelerated filer, like a big one, and they can get it shortened, but it's usually a 20-day review. They kind of make sure the disclosures are there, and they don't bless the offering. They don't say you're approved. They just say, hey, they filled out the paperwork and they paid the fees, so we're good to go. So S1 is for an IPO, S3 is for a shelf. What's interesting about a shelf, if it's a well-known seasoned issuer, instead of waiting 20 days, the second you file it, you're effective and you can sell the shares. Remember, that's the word you want to hear, effective, not approval. They don't make any assertions about being a merit or telling the truth. It's literally, hey, you're effective, you're allowed to sell it. Blue sky. If you hear the term blue sky, they're talking about rules out of the blue sky. It's all about state stuff, okay? These are state level regulations. You might have to register in each state where you plan to sell the securities unless you're exempt and you're like a federal covered security. It's basically just making sure that you're not screwing over the customers in the state. So each state has their own administrator that enforces the rules of each state. So unless you're exempt, like a stock exchange or a mutual fund or federal covered or muni or treasury, you will have to register in every state that you sell shares in. There are exceptions, but that's not this test. Now, let's talk about some of the rules. SIPC, okay? So basically, if you have a broker-dealer, you have to let the customers know about SIPC, Securities Investor Protection Corporation. It's like FDIC for banks. You have to provide the SIPC's contact info and explain that SIPC is there to protect customer funds if the brokerage goes belly up. So SIPC is like an insurance policy for the broker-dealer failing. It jumps in when the firm fails and can't return your securities or cash. SIPC does not cover you if your stock tanks or if you make a bad trade. It doesn't cover Non-securities, it's replacing missing assets when the broker fails. So it's not going to replace futures and forwards and non-securities. It will replace cash and securities. If you have a street name account, which means the broker dealer has their shares held in their name, that's street name, and they will cover it. If it's in your own name, if you own the securities in your own name, they won't cover it because they don't need to. Because you could just call up the firm and go, "Oh, you have my 20 shares of Nvidia." Nvidia go, "Yeah, we have your name." You'll just get new shares. It's the problem is that street name is when the broker dealer owns the shares for your name in your benefit. So if you call up Nvidia and go, "Where's my shares?" They go, "We don't know who you are," but the broker dealer does it. Now the magic number is 500,000. So it's up to 500 grand in each separate capacity, meaning each type of account registration. So if you have an individual, a joint, or a Roth, those are all considered separate. But if you have an individual, a cash, and a margin, those are considered the same. They're not different. So up to 500 grand, up to 250 in cash can be claimed. Okay. So if you have 500 grand in cash, you'll only cover 250. If you have 500 grand in stock, they'll cover the whole 500 grand. So if you have 50 grand in cash and 300 in stock, your total assets are 350. Your brokerage implodes, you'll get the whole 350 grand. You'll get 50 grand in cash and 300 grand in cash for the stocks you own. Now, separate capacity means if you have an individual and a joint and a trust and an IRA, those are all separate accounts. That's four different accounts, up to 500 each, not 2 million each, 500 each. But again, if you have a cash and a margin account, they consider that one account. Okay, so if your firm is underwriting a new issue, bringing it public, or whatever, or you have a big stake in it, you have to disclose it. Okay, so again, if your firm is underwriting a new issue or holds a big position in a stock that you're pushing, you can't not tell anyone. You have to let them know. You have to be upfront about with the clients so that they can know that you might have a conflict of interest. If you're a market maker, you're quoting buy and sell orders to keep the market liquid. That's your job. Market makers buy and sell all day long to keep it liquid. You can't charge the issuer or promoter fees for just making that market. So it works both ways. The issuer can't pay you to make a market in the stock, and the market maker can't say, "Hey, I'll make a market if you give me this much money." That's pay to play. We can't do that stuff. So here are the rules. We got SIPC, letting people know who's got their back if things go bad, I mean the broker deal goes south, making sure no one's hiding a conflict of interest, and you got to prevent shady pay for play for market making. And again, the thing with the market making is that I'm making a market. If you pay me to do it, it's going to create a false impression that there's activity, and we can't do that. Okay, let's jump into the G11. This is from Munis, okay? These rules lay out how underwriters handle the distribution of a brand new bond issue, okay? First is the order period. That's how the underwriter manages different types of orders: pre-sale, group, designated member. Remember, so in reality, there's four. You have pre-sale, group, designated member. But retail always comes ahead of everyone. So the issuer will decide what retail is and what order they have. But remember, pre-sale orders are orders received before the underwriter has won the deal. Group orders are orders received after you know who the underwriter in the syndicate wins a deal. Designated are where you're saying, "Oh, I just want one underwriter to get the commissions," and that comes third. And then member orders are for FINRA members to get the members of the syndicate and stuff to get shares for themselves, which always has to come left. So it goes pre-sale, group, designated member. Pretty girls drive Mercedes. Pro golfers don't miss. Pretty girls do me. Whatever you want to do, they don't. My wife does. Whatever. Oh, I'm going down a hole that I can't get out of without sounding stupid, so I'm just going to stop. So again, pre-sale orders are orders received before the underwriter has been chosen who won the deal. Like you're jumping in with these people. After they choose the underwriter, any orders received after that are group orders, then designated, then members. So what happens is it's not a big deal. If we don't oversell the bond, it doesn't matter. But if we sell too many bonds, we have to decide who's going to get first. So first priority is pre-sale, then group, then designated, then member. And really, retail comes out of everyone. Okay. Okay, we have to disclose where the primary offering. So this rule ensures that anybody buying a brand new muni security gets the full story, no shady shit. So first we have the official statement. The underwriter or dealer must provide an official statement if the issuer wrote it. Remember, the official statement is like their prospectus, okay? You have to do it by a certain time. Usually it's by completion of the trade. Now, here's the thing. They don't have to write one. So remember, MSRB writes rules and FINRA and SEC enforce it. But the issuers are cities and states. They don't actually have to listen to federal law. So they don't have to write an official statement. But if they do, everyone has to get it. when a municipality issues a bond, right? You know, they can either do, firm commitment or whatever, but sometimes during the competition, we haven't chose who gets the deal yet. So we haven't chosen which underwriter is going to get the deal. So once we choose that, it changes some things. But let me get into why I'm going to this. If we issue like a million bonds, $1 million worth of bonds, what if we get 1.2 in orders? Who gets cut out? So we have to decide who's not going to get bonds because you have to allocate them. So they have a rule called, we don't have to follow it, but we're going to go with it. PGDM, pre-sale group designated member. There's ways to remember: pretty girls date me, pretty girls drive Mercedes, pretty girls do me, pro golfers don't miss, please God deliver me, whatever you want to do. The order of allocation. So what happens is pre-sale orders are orders the underwriter gets before they even announce as the winner, if they are at all. Group orders are orders you get after you've already been announced as a winner and you're actually allocated in the bonds. Designated orders are when a customer, you don't split it with the other members of the syndicate. And member orders, when members of the syndicate or members of FINRA want to buy bonds, they have to come last. So if we're going to allocate bonds, pre-sale, really retail goes first all the time. And the issuer decides who retail is. We go pre-sale, then group, then designated, then member. So if we sell all the bonds in pre-sale, nobody gets anything else. If we sell pre-sale and group, then once we get there, if we sell them all there, nobody gets any more. And it keeps going on until all the bonds are sold. So usually it's members going to get screwed because, again, you're supposed to sell to the public, not to members of the FINRA. So issuers are supposed to do an official statement, that their version of a prospectus. An official statement is the Muni's version of a prospectus. It's a disclosure doc. But here's the thing: MSRB can't write rules for the states. So technically, states don't have to write their official statement. They're not going to be able to sell it. No broker dealer in the world will sell a bond without an official statement. So they don't have to, but they kind of back end it by saying, hey, if they give one out, you have to give it. So the broker dealers go to the city or state and go, you got to write one or we're not going to sell it. So that's the whole deal, that if there's an official statement written, anyone who buys the bond has to get it. Now, just like the disclosure docs in the prospectus, there's a preliminary official statement too. It's done before the deal is final. Every stock or security, while I'm stuttering, has a unique identifier. It's a CUSIP. I always think of like a VIN number, but like IBM, all the shares of IBM have a CUSIP number. But each different security that IBM has would. So I go back to when I first started on the exchange. Somebody called up and wanted to buy the chemical preferred stock. And I said, okay. I went to the trading floor. I went to the trading post and well, there's 9 of them. Which one? So I went back and said, oh, he wants the 8%. I went back and there were 2 8% preferreds. I said, crap. So I had to go back and get the CUSIP number because each preferred has its own CUSIP number identifier. Okay. It's like a serial number. So once I got that number. Now, remember, securities are fungible. So it's not like if I buy one share of chemical 8% preferred under the CUSIP number, the entire series has the same CUSIP number. So it doesn't matter which ones you buy. But chemical this is an old bank, had 8 different preferreds. They all had a different CUSIP number. The common stock had a CUSIP number. It's a unique identifier. And basically, if we don't have a CUSIP, things get messy. So we make sure that every security has a CUSIP number. G11, not that you need to know numbers, but have it floating around. G11 is the process for delivering munis to the market. That's a pre-sale group designated member. G32 is you have to disclose the official statement. G34, everything has an ID number, meaning CUSIP number. Okay, we're still in the primary market, but this is for non-exempt securities. What act covers it? Yes, the 33 Act. It's the granddaddy, the big pop of Securities Act, okay? It lays out how a new security offerings have to be registered and what info companies must tell you, okay? So let's talk about the big one. What it does, it tells the companies, here's a laundry list of everything you got to disclose when you register the securities. It's all about the details, the people in charge, how they're using the money they raise, financial statements and the risks and all that. It has to be fair and balanced statement of the risks and disclosures. Okay. Investors really do deserve to know what they're buying. No secrets, no BS, stuff like that. That would be in the S1. Okay. The S1 is when you register, unless you're exempt. So once you file the S1, the registration statement, that starts a 20-day cooling off period. Now, some of the bigger companies can be what they call accelerated filers, where they can shorten it, but let's just stick with the 20 days. That's a 20-day review. You can't really do much during it. You can no moans, no money, no order, no ads, no new sales, no soliciting. Okay. What can you do during those 20 days? You can you can send out a red herring, which is a preliminary prospectus, which is the prospectus without the date and price. You can do indications of interest. Hey, are you interested? How many shares are you going to buy? It's not binding on anyone. You're not selling it, no money. You can blue sky, which registered in all the different states. And then we also have where we have a due diligence meeting. Okay, so the due diligence meeting is where all the accountants, the lawyers, the underwriters, everyone gets together and goes over the last minute stuff right before the effective date to make sure that we're solid. Now, you cannot start selling the shares until it's effective. They will never say the word approve. Approve is not in their vocabulary. Remember, vocabulary, like calculator. No regulator ever approves anything ever. Okay. So basically, it has a 20-day cooling off period. And at the end of the 20 days, if they say nothing, you're effective. You cannot sell the shares until it's effective. Everything's on standby until then. Okay, now the prospectus, it's all the shit that needs to be in the prospectus. It's like a cheat sheet of all the information, telling the investors the deal's terms, the risks, the financial details, the company plans. The prospectus, as an investor, it's like your best friend. If the company tries to hide something, they're in violation of this section. So they have to disclose everything. This is a thing with WeWork right before COVID hit. They tried to go public. And I think his name is Adam. He had to disclose that he borrowed like $700 million from the company. A lot of fucking money to borrow. It was in there. They kind of buried it, but people saw it and they go, hey, what's going on? And it actually killed the deal for 3 years. Remember, you can't make unlawful representations. You can't say, hey, this is approved for the SEC, or they'll never guarantee, the SEC will never guarantee or approve anything. They basically just to check, are the disclosures there? So literally, if you have a company that really has a very small chance of making money, but you disclose the shit out of it, they have to declare it effective. It's fine. Remember, you can't say anything like great investment. They can't say the SEC approved this. You can't make any sort of representation. Yet the SEC ascertain the merit of it. They literally don't. They're looking at, did you pay the fee? Did you disclose the risks? You're good to go. Now, what's an accredited investor? So an accredited investor, remember 1, 2, 3 accredited, 1 million net worth, 200 salary, or 300 single, or 300 miserable. I mean, married. So why does that matter? Because there are some things accredited investors can do. They're still sort of retail, but they're rich retail. Now, again, 1, 2, 3 accredited, 1 million net worth, 200 salary, single, 300 married. Or they have an active 7 or 65 or 82. You pass the exam, doesn't do it. You have to be active and running. What can they do? They can buy usually on private placements and do other things that regular mom and pop can't do. We'll get to it later when we get to the exceptions. Now, mutual funds can do what they call a summary. Now, the prospectus has to be clean. Literally, if you hand the prospectus to someone, it has to be untouched, unmarked, uncatty cornered, any of that shit. You can give them a website, a link to the website. You can give them a PDF. Access equals delivery, but you can't mark it up or change it. It can't be deleted. You can't even rewrite it in English, like in it is big print. You can't touch it. Now, mutual funds have prospectuses too, but since mutual funds I don't know why they do this, but they allow what they call an omitting or summary prospectus. So some people can't read that 300-page thing. So they're gonna have a summary prospectus with highlights. It's all the highlight stuff. Now, the one thing is it's like a cliff notes, okay, of the prospectus. Now, the thing is, a mutual fund, you can give it to them. You have to make the regular prospectus available to them, and it cannot be accompanied with an application to invest. You can send it to them, and if they want to invest, they can reach out to you. You can't send to say, oh, here's a summary and here's an application to invest. That doesn't work. Now, we're going to talk about the Act of 34, and wait to the end of this. Before I wrap up the video, I'm going to give you an acronym. It's going to help you get through the test. Okay, let's start with this one. Do you want to trade stocks? You want to work at a firm slinging shares all day? Then meet your boss, the Securities Act of 1934. This is a law that runs the secondary markets, the buying and selling of securities, stocks, bonds, and other securities. They're already out there, non-exempt. Not new issues. That's the 33 Act we just did that. The 34 Act is all about the aftermarket. What happens after a company goes public? Boom, this kicks in. It created the SEC. Yeah, that SEC, not the one that covers all the greatest football conference in the world. The regulator, the cop on the financial beat, and it laid down the rules that still keep the game in check today. Let's start with 3A. This section, it's the dictionary, but not the kind you ignore. It's the kind you actually have to read. It tells you exactly what a security is, because if you don't know what counts as a security, how the hell are you going to regulate it? It defines a broker, someone who executes trades for others. It defines a dealer, someone who trades for their own account. It even lays out terms like exchange, issuer, affiliate, control, and person, which seem basic until you realize how fucking important it is in legal language. Every rule that follows in the 34 Act hangs on these definitions. If you misread this section, you're going to be screwed before you get started. I go over these over the next 5 hours of video. If you're an issuer and you don't qualify for an exemption, you will have to register with the SEC. If you're in the whole point is you're in the big leagues now, so no more hiding. You file your 10Ks, annual reports, audited 10Qs, which are quarterly, and 8Ks, which are special situations. You're disclosing the good, bad, and the ugly. Now, the broker-dealer registration. This is the gatekeeper. You want to sling securities in the U.S., you better register with the SEC. I wish I could make a rhyming of that. It doesn't matter if you're calling from Wall Street Tower or a Jersey basement. If you're a broker-dealer, you got to play by the rules. Section 15A, this is what gave birth to FINRA. The SEC said, fine, you can self-regulate, but we're still watching. FINRA writes the rules, enforces discipline, and licenses the reps. It's the everyday cop on the beat. The SEC is the Fed. Now remember something. This is what you have to think. Any rule that FINRA sets up has to be approved by the SEC. Think of FINRA as the watchdog for the SEC. There are other rules with 1956 that came out that did NASDAQ, but it's letting us self-regulate. FINRA wasn't really around until the mid-2000s, but all this was like before that, NASD and New York Stock Exchange. All those are watchdogs for the SEC, and now it's FINRA. So FINRA is a self-regulatory organization. It is literally, they are self-regulatory in their own members, which are FINRA members. If you hear the word member firm, that's what you're talking about. They can fine you, they can ban you, they can suspend you, but they can't arrest you. All the criminal shit goes up to the SEC. So they kind of take the load off the SEC's wall. Now, 10b-5 is the anti-fraud shit. This is the fucking hammer, okay? This is anti-fraud. It's all about anti-manipulation and fraud. Basically, it says, do not manipulate the market. No lying, no misleading, no bullshit. Whether you say it, tweet it, or hint at it at all, you can't do that. If you give false info to pump up a stock, you hide bad news before a merger, you're done. Insider trading, that's 10b-5 too. This rule sends people to prison. Now, the thing about this is, remember, 10b-5 is very broad. They actually were smart enough to go, okay, if we're not in 1934, we don't know everything people can do. So we gave the SEC broad rules of saying, if the SEC determined, I'll say this again, if the SEC determines something is fraud, then it is. Regulation D, this is under the 33 Act, but it's worth talking about, okay? Reg D means you're an exempt security. It lets companies raise money without full SEC registration, but only if they sell to accredited investors. Now, what's an accredited investor? Remember, 1, 2, 3 accredited. We've done this. 1, 2, 3 accredited. 1 million net worth, 200 salary if you're single, or 300 if you're miserable. I mean married, okay? That's an accredited investor. Now, under there's 3 types of Reg D. 504 is up to 10 million. Anyone can buy, accredited or not. 506B is unlimited, over 5 million, unlimited, but only up to 35 non-accredited, but they need a purchaser's rep helping them, but as many accredited as you want. Neither one of those can do general advertising. 506C as in Charlie, C as in cookie, is the top one. Only accredited investors can buy, 0 unaccredited. But you can generally advertise, because if you're sending it to, if you're putting an advertising out there and grandma reads it or grandpa reads it, want to be gender equal, it doesn't matter if they can't buy it unless you're accredited. So you can do general advertising for Reg D 506C. Rule 144, these are for selling restricted or controlled securities. If you're an insider, okay, so if you are an insider or you got stock through a private deal, this rule tells you how to sell it without registering every damn time. So here's the deal. If I am a control person buying fully registered shares, think Bezos, Gates, Musk, all that shit, or any partner, officer, director, or big ass shareholder, I call them pods. Partners, officers, directors, that's the POD, and S is big ass shareholders, over 10%. They don't have a holding period if they buy registered shares, but they have to follow the 144 rules. They can sell every 90 days the greater of 1% of the outstanding with a 4 weeks trading volume 4 times a year. For the SIE, you probably won't have to do the math, but you might have to understand it. So greater of 1% of the outstanding, 4 weeks trading volume, 4 times a year, which is every 90 days. Now, if you buy shares on a Reg D, you have to hold it fully paid for 6 months, and then you can sell whatever you want after the 6 months is over. There's no volume restrictions. However, if you want to sell it before the 6 months, which you really can't do, you can sell it under 144A, as an apple, to Quibs. These are massive companies, okay? You can sell to Quibs. These are big-ass companies, investment companies that manage over $100 million. You can sell to Quibs under 144A anytime you want. Most holding periods have the 144 exemption because the point of a holding period is to prevent you from dumping it on grandma, grandpa, but Quibs can defend themselves, so you can sell to them anytime you want. That's 144A. 145 is mergers and reclassifications. You merge, consolidate, swap shares in a reorg. That's treated like a new sale. You have to file disclosures and give shareholders the details. The SEC doesn't want anyone caught off guard when their shares become something new. They won't have to do the whole that 33 in prospectus, but they have to let them know. Now, 147 is an intrastate, inside the state. You're raising money just in your state, like Ben and Jerry's, all in Vermont. You may be if you do this, you're exempt from federal law, but you cannot cross the state line. You have to be incorporated in the state, do business in the state, sell only to residents. Now, any resident that buys it can sell it outside the state after 6 months, but they have to wait that long. They have to wait until it's outside the 6 months to sell it outside the state. Now, they allow some bleed out, which is not really testable, like some of your employees can be outside the state, but none of the investors. Every single investor has to be inside the state. Now, Rule 164, this is called the free writing prospectus. This one's a little newer. After filing a registration statement, companies can hand out a simplified, flashy marketing doc, okay? So it's a free writing prospectus. They can kind of push the offering. Now, the thing is, there has to be a legend that links to the official prospectus and all that. So you can advertise, but it has to be transparent. Now, a lot of companies can't do these. They can't have a blank check company. The eligible issuers can do a free writing prospectus. A lot of them can't because they're too small. So let's wrap this shit up. The 34 Act is big, but if you boil it down to this one, it polices the secondary market. It regulates the people in the market. It demands transparency. If you lie, cheat, or trade on inside information, it'll kill you. Now, here's the acronym. MISPERMS. MISSPERMS. MISPERMS, okay? Now, remember, M for margin. That's Reg T. Federal Reserve's in charge of that. I for insiders to decide who insiders were. S, SEC, created the SEC. S, the second is short sell. It did regulations on short sales, okay? I have a ton of videos on this, that you have to get a borrow before you sell short or stuff like that. P, proxy. If you want to vote, you can actually use a proxy and vote by mail. E, the exchanges. It regulated all the exchanges and broker-dealers under the SEC. R, reports. We talked about them. 10Qs quarterly, 10Ks annual, 8Ks is disclosures. The second, and manipulation, that's a 10b5. We talked about that. And the last one is S, MISPERMS S, that's stabilization. So when a new issue comes out, the lead underwriter can actually buy shares to hold it from dropping. They buy shares. It's actually manipulation, but it's legal manipulation. We're going to get there. Okay, I got to start my live Q&A on Tuesday, June 10th. Let's fucking go. Let's go, baby. I'll see you in 2 minutes.